In the deepest expanse of the cosmos, within the chill, obsidian confines of a fortress prison, an extraterrestrial monarch of the vampiric lineage sat shackled and isolated. Her name was Zara, a figure once legendary and feared across 1,000 star systems, now relegated to obscurity. Her diadem of silver was missing. Her wings were tattered, and her frame was emaciated from a prolonged fast. The prison guards derived pleasure from witnessing her torment, as she had abstained from sustenance for a considerable time. The Vampire High Council had denounced her as a renegade, alleging that she had compromised their species by assisting humanity during the recent interstellar conflict. Her execution, scheduled in 3 days, was intended to be a public spectacle before the Empire's populace. She maintained a stoic silence, yet her crimson eyes held an unquenchable, blazing defiance. Zara was certain of the facts. She had not betrayed them. They had betrayed her at a remote human garrison known as Econe. Meanwhile, a specialist operative named Ryan Cole received classified directives. He was an elite warrior, exceptionally strong, swift, and courageous, but his most defining trait was his moral compass. The assignment was straightforward: infiltrate Planet Verx 6 and secure a high-priority detainee. He was kept in the dark about the prisoner's identity, only being told the mission was crucial for the survival of Earth. He was instructed to maintain vigilance and trust no one, including the person he was tasked to extract. Ryan achieved planetfall on Verx 6 under a fabricated identity. The planet's surface was perpetually shrouded by black storm clouds, crisscrossed by streaks of blood-hued lightning, the sky a portrait of endless turbulence. He located the penal facility, a lethal, concealed structure carved into the flank of a mountain. The atmosphere was oppressive, heavy with a palpable dread. Ryan moved with the fluidity of a phantom, evading surveillance equipment, neutralizing perimeter sensors, and slipping past security personnel. He penetrated the prison's core, moving past 3 formidable locked doors. There he found her. She seemed on the verge of death, skin pallid, body frail, eyes shut. But as Ryan approached, her eyes snapped open, illuminating the darkness with a fiery radiance. "You are not one of them," she articulated, her voice a mix of fractured glass and melodic sound. "No, I'm not," Ryan affirmed. "I'm here to liberate you." A faint, almost disbelieving smile touched her lips. "I am not the rescue you anticipate," she cautioned. "I am not a casualty." "I couldn't care less," Ryan stated firmly. "My orders are to bring you back and I will fulfill them." He severed her restraints with a plasma-cutting torch, but her strength was too depleted for her to stand. "You need sustenance," Ryan observed. She looked away, shame evident. "Indeed." He sliced his own hand with his combat knife and offered the wound. After a moment's hesitation, she partook, consuming only enough to regain her footing. "I will not consume more than is essential," she declared. "You possess more courage than most." They made their escape through the ancient service tunnels beneath the prison. The walls were covered in archaic glyphs, carrying strange, echoing sounds. The alien vampire guards soon realized the breakout. Alarms blared throughout the mountain complex. Ryan and Zara fought their way through fire and smoke, confronting attackers with energy blasters and sharp claws. They reached a secluded landing platform where an antique vampire reconnaissance vessel lay dormant. Ryan swiftly bypassed the security controls while Zara provided cover, leveraging her dormant powers for the first time in weeks. Her vitality was surging, her eyes glowing with renewed intensity. As the guards launched interceptor missiles, their ship shuddered, sparks flying, but they successfully jettisoned into the void. In the ensuing silence, broken only by the hum of the engines and their breathing, Ryan faced her. "You were not what I expected." She returned his gaze. "And you are far beyond a mere human." Unbeknownst to them, deep within the vampire empire, the council had already registered her escape. They deployed their most lethal hunters, fast, ruthless, and utterly devoted. "Restore the queen to us," they commanded, "or deliver her severed head." The actions of Ryan and Zara had just ignited a war, a conflict that would determine the destiny of 2 species. The human had saved the vampire queen, and the galaxy would never be the same. The commandeered starship groaned like a dying titan as it entered the phase of superluminal travel. Metal shrieked, indicator lights flashed erratically, and sparks danced like incandescent insects. Ryan Cole maintained a tight grip on the navigation controls, his brow slick with perspiration, his focus unwavering. Beside him, the alien queen, though still frail, was no longer utterly defeated. The silence between them was more potent than any barrage. She examined her hands, faintly stained with his blood. "I promised not to take excessively," she murmured. "You didn't," Ryan responded. "It was freely given." Behind them, Veraxis 6 dissolved into the blackness. Yet their freedom was precarious. A detachment of vampire hunter ships was already tracking their energy signature, drawn to her royal lineage like predators to a wounded beast. Zara concentrated, mentally interfacing with the vessel's archaic systems. The ancient technology responded like a whisper on the air. "This ship is outdated," she commented, "but it is fiercely loyal." "To me." Ryan seemed impressed. "Can it take us to safety?" "No," she replied. "But it can transport us to a forgotten domain." She input coordinates for a lost sector known as the Bleed Space, an uncharted territory devoid of law or light. The vessel dissolved into the shadow zone where dead stars drifted and ancient entities slumbered. Inside the ship, the lights began to fail and the temperature dropped unnervingly. Ryan sensed an anomaly. Checking the rear compartment, he froze. A cryopod was open, though neither of them had accessed it. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and armored, not entirely human. "Do not move," Ryan commanded, raising his weapon. The intruder merely smiled, revealing razor-sharp teeth. "I am not here for you," it hissed. "I came for her." Zara materialized behind Ryan, her tone calm but lethal. "Another hunter," she stated, "but not one of the council's." The stranger inclined its head. "I serve the bloodless order," it announced. "And you, my queen, are required to perish." A brutal skirmish erupted in the confined passageway. Ryan discharged his weapon, but the adversary moved with preternatural swiftness. Zara fought with claws and telekinetic energy, but her recovery was incomplete. The assassin hurled Ryan against a bulkhead and advanced with a dark, crystalline dagger aimed at her heart. In a critical instant, Ryan seized the assailant's leg and pulled with full force. The queen struck swiftly and deeply with her fangs. The assassin shrieked and disintegrated into fine dust. Silence returned, but the fight had crippled the ship. Navigation was compromised and they were marooned in the bleed. Zara sank down, visibly shaken. "That killer was not affiliated with the Empire," she said. "Others know I am alive." Ryan assessed the damage. Oxygen levels plummeting, power failing. "We must land somewhere," he insisted. "Anywhere." The ship detected a small, lifeless moon. A cold, barren world featuring a hidden garrison marked by an obsolete vampire cipher. They made a jarring landing, the hull scraping against ice and stone. Outside, the landscape was a frozen white. Inside the outpost, a core of warmth, silence, and something antiquity awaited in the darkness. As they crossed the threshold, the blast doors sealed behind them with a faint whisper. "Welcome home, Queen Zara." A voice echoed from the gloom. She frowned. That voice dates back centuries. Ryan raised his weapon again. "Ally or enemy?" The voice gave a deep, rolling laugh. "It depends on what you choose to awaken." Something had survived here, an entity steeped in secrets, and Ryan felt a cold sensation creeping beneath his skin. He couldn't determine if the chill was the environment, the queen, or the transformation quietly occurring within him. The residual effect of her blood still circulating, changing him in ways he could not grasp. The outpost walls were etched with symbols that pulsed with a faint red luminescence, an ancient dialect predating the surrounding stars. Ryan kept his pulse steady, his weapon ready. Beside him, Queen Zara traced the stone with her fingertips. The rock seemed to yield to her touch, as if recognizing her presence. "This location," she whispered, "was once a refuge. Now it feels like a crypt." A draft of cold air touched their faces like forgotten specters. Lights flickered on in sequence, unveiling long corridors, monumental doors, and shattered effigies of ancient vampire sovereigns, all of which had been deliberately carved sightless. Ryan followed her cautiously. "Why did they betray you?" he inquired. "What is the true source of their fear?" She paused, faced him and replied, "Nothing." She then moved toward a sealed vault. The entrance, constructed from bone and crystal, required her blood to open. Inside, the chamber was filled with levitating memory orbs, vampire technology that stored past moments like living dreams. Zara reached for an orb, and as her fingers made contact, the room plunged into darkness. Ryan was suddenly privy to her memories, experiencing them as if he were present. He saw her in the council hall, her voice firm, her wings fully extended, her eyes alight. "We have no need to conquer Earth," she had asserted. "We need to learn from them." The council reacted with furious shouts. "They are mere vermin," one yelled. They represent a clear and present danger, another countered. They represent hope, Zara declared. That was her offense. Her belief in coexistence. The scene shifted. Ryan now saw her weeping over a deceased human warrior. Years ago she had loved him. He had been killed defending her during a clandestine operation on Mars. She had never disclosed this to anyone, not even her own people. The memory receded. Ryan blinked, stepping back, his heart heavy. You attempted to halt the war, he stated. Zara nodded, her voice subdued. I failed, she admitted. And they eradicated every vestige of my belief. Yet there was more. She eyed another orb, deep crimson and radiating an ominous glow. Ryan reached for it, but she stopped him. Not this one, she forbade. This contains the weapon's blueprint. What weapon? Ryan asked. She fixed him with a sharp gaze. They constructed a device, she revealed, capable of annihilating all human life in seconds. It requires blood as its energy source, royal blood. That is why they kept me alive, she whispered. They needed me to activate it. But if I escape, she added, the weapon remains dormant. Ryan felt a wave of icy realization. So they are hunting you not to punish you, he summarized, but to plug you in. She nodded slowly. Yes. Ryan began to pace, desperately searching for a solution. We must destroy it, he insisted. She looked up at him. We shall, but I cannot accomplish it in solitude, she added. I need your assistance. Suddenly the outpost alarms blared. Red warning lights pulsed. An alert echoed in an ancient dialect. Zara's eyes widened. They've located us, she declared. They are here. Ryan sprinted to the main console, pulling up the sensor data. 3 ships were outside, one of them a massive vampire war-class dreadnought. They moved quickly, he muttered. They followed your essence, she countered. The sky outside turned from black to an ominous red as the ships circled overhead. Inside, Ryan retrieved weapons from a storage locker and tossed one to her. I thought vampires despised projectile weapons, he remarked. We do, she replied. But sometimes, a necessary hatred can be beneficial. They stood back to back in the archaic chamber, the ancient statues seemingly observing them, the red light illuminating their faces. One human, one vampire queen, 2 fugitives holding the future of Earth. In that moment, as the ceiling doors began to buckle, Ryan no longer saw a monster beside him. He saw a warrior who had suffered profound loss, yet was prepared to fight for a future not yet established. The stolen vessel moved soundlessly through a lifeless expanse of space, a void of stars and signals, defined only by the endless darkness. Inside, the emergency lights flickered faintly, their low hum sounding like a breath caught beneath the metal plating. Ryan Cole stood alone in the access corridor, his combat rifle held tightly. His footsteps echoed softly as he moved toward the engine room. An unsettling feeling persisted. They had barely survived the attack on the garrison, but since entering hyperspace, subtle disturbances had begun. A missing toolkit, inexplicable power fluctuations, and the night before, he had sworn he heard footsteps that vanished upon turning around. Queen Zara remained confined to the medical bay, her physical recovery ongoing. She had been withdrawn, citing a need for rest, silence, and time, but the quiet was becoming deafening. Ryan descended to the lower deck, his vigilance absolute. There was fresh, dark blood on the floor, leading to a storage compartment. He eased the door open. Inside lay the lifeless body of a crew technician, fully drained, with eyes wide in a fixed stare of shock. No, Ryan whispered. He examined the neck, 2 small, precise puncture wounds. Vampire feeding. But it could not be Zara. She had sworn not to feed again without his consent. He charged back up the stairs, his heart pounding, and entered the medical bay. The air was frigid. Zara stood by the observation window watching the absent stars. I must ask you something, Ryan began. She turned slowly, her eyes gentle but weary. You discovered the body, she said, her tone suggesting foreknowledge. Ryan adjusted his weapon slightly. Was it you? She took a long moment before answering. No. I assured you, I only consume what is essential, and only from you. Then who is responsible? Ryan demanded. Zara's voice dropped to a low, grave tone. You inadvertently brought something back with us. Ryan blinked in confusion. What do you mean? There was a shadow on that station, she explained. Not of my lineage nor of yours. A creature that dwells in the structural voids, moving between the flow of blood. A parasite, she whispered, ancient and insatiable. Ryan recoiled. You're telling me there is an organism on this ship? Not a mere creature, she clarified. A presence. Something that inhabits people like clothing. At that instant, the ship's illumination failed. All systems went dark. A sound of soft scraping like nails across metal moved through the blackness. Then a voice spoke from the internal comms, but it wasn't the ship's computer or a human voice. Blood remembers, it whispered. Blood calls. Ryan turned to Zara. Can it commandeer people? She nodded slowly. Yes. And if it consumed the essence of a vampire, she left the sentence unfinished, the implication stark. They moved quickly toward the bridge. The corridors seemed warped and extended, as if the ship itself was morphing. They encountered another crew member, this one alive, but his eyes were entirely black, and his veins visibly writhed beneath his skin. He smiled menacingly. The Queen is the feast, he hissed. And you are the delivery service. Ryan fired 3 shots, center mass. The body collapsed, but a black mist billowed from it like smoke and dissipated into the ventilation shafts. Zara looked at Ryan. Bullets will not dispatch it. Then how? Ryan asked, reloading. Only with fire or something of greater antiquity than itself. She reached into her armored tunic and produced a crystal dagger. The blade shimmered with an otherworldly energy forged, she said, from the bones of the first vampire. This can terminate it, but we must locate its nexus. They proceeded to engineering, where the ship's core was beating an unnatural rhythm. Inside, severed wires sparked, monitors flashed indecipherable code, and at the room's center lay a pulsating cocoon. From it emanated a cacophony of whispers, distorted memories and echoing screams. Ryan saw fleeting images of his deceased brother, of a ravaged Earth battlefield. Zara saw her mother incinerated by the Council's decree. The entity was feeding on their anguish, amplifying its power. Enough! Ryan roared. He moved forward, but the dark mist attempted to restrain him. Zara cried out a phrase in her ancient tongue and plunged the dagger into the cocoon. A burst of scarlet light filled the room, followed by silence. The cocoon cracked, and the ship's systems began to normalize. Whatever the parasite was, it was gone. But Ryan still felt a lingering chill in his veins, a faint whisper. He looked at Zara. It's over. She did not answer, her eyes filled with dread. Not entirely, she corrected. It left a fragment of itself inside of you. The stars shifted like grains of sand as the vessel exited superluminal travel. Before them lay a crimson formation, not a moon, not a planet, but a massive geological structure that pulsed with a soft, red luminescence, as if it possessed a living heartbeat. Blood Moon Station, Queen Zara breathed, a mere whisper. Ryan approached the viewport, studying the bizarre world. Is this your ancestral world? No, she replied. It is older than my home. Older than your empire? Then what exactly is it? She turned to him, her eyes inscrutable. It is our birthplace, she stated, and the site of our curse. As they drew near, the station's enormous access gates swung open without a command. No defensive activation, no greeting, just a silent, unnerving invitation. Ryan was immediately suspicious. It feels like a snare, he observed. It likely is, Zara conceded. But we have run out of alternatives. The ship settled softly on the moon's periphery. The ground beneath them was a tapestry of red crystal, cracked and aged. There was no air movement, no sky, only an absolute stillness. Ryan confirmed his rifle's readiness, checked the energy core, and still felt the frigid echo of the parasite deep within his bloodstream. It hadn't manifested again, but he was certain of its lingering presence. They entered the station, the doors sealing behind them with a quiet hiss. Inside was a cathedral of silence, walls composed of bone-like glass and glowing bloodstones. Though unlit, everything emitted a faint, crimson radiance. The hallway extended for an immeasurable distance, lined with effigies of forgotten rulers, each face etched with the same look of profound suffering. This place is sacred ground, Zara explained. It retains the memory of every drop of blood spilled by our kind. Ryan surveyed the walls again. Then why do I feel like it is watching me? They reached a vast central chamber containing a circular throne. On it resided a faded memory AI, configured from the voice of the last queen. It activated as Zara approached. Daughter of the bloodline, it droned, you have returned. I demand answers, Zara stated, concerning the weapon, the council, and the entity that pursued us here. The AI shimmered, its voice a soft cascade of rain. The council fears you because you carry the blood of the first. The weapon is powered solely by your DNA. Only you can deactivate it. But another has entered you, the voice said, turning its attention to Ryan. You are not one but two. Ryan took a step back, his eyes momentarily flashing crimson. The Queen looked at him, her voice level and firm. I can help you, but you must place your trust in me. I do, Ryan replied, but his voice was strained by a profound fear, not of her but of his own self. They proceeded to the Hall of Origins, where they found an ancient vault sealed by royal blood. Zara opened it with a cut to her palm. Inside were historical records, powerful artifacts, and a holographic map of the Vampire Empire. The map showed the weapon was already being transported to Earth's orbit. They had less than 4 days. But the more pressing crisis was the parasite within Ryan, which had triggered an ancient, dormant protocol within the station's system, identifying him as the carrier. The system broadcast a stark warning. If he reaches Earth, the infection will propagate across both species. Ryan stood paralyzed. So, you want her to execute me now? He asked the machine. The AI paused. No, it replied. She must finalize the bond. Only her complete blood can contain it. Zara grasped the meaning, her voice cracking with emotion. If I complete the bond, you will cease to be entirely human. Ryan looked down at his hands, which were already shaking. I may no longer be human already, he said. Do it. She moved toward him, placed her hand over his chest, and murmured an ancient oath. Her claws gently pierced his skin. Their blood mingled, and for an instant the world turned a blazing red. Ryan cried out, not from physical pain but from a torrent of memory. He witnessed cosmic events, wars predating the light, and then profound silence. When it ended, he opened his eyes. He was still Ryan, but more, calmer, stronger, and intrinsically connected to her. Connected to the moon itself. Suddenly the station shuddered. A new energy signature entered the system. The Vampire Empire had arrived. Dozens of warships encircled the moon. A cold, amplified voice echoed from orbit, surrender the Queen or be annihilated. Zara looked up, her expression serene. They believe this station is abandoned. Ryan raised his weapon, his eyes glowing faintly red. They are about to discover otherwise. Above Blood Moon Station, the void was a canvas of burning red. Dozens of warships formed a tightening circle, like scavengers waiting for the signal to consume. Inside, the silence before the storm enveloped Ryan and Zara like a final, shared breath. She stood tall beneath the archaic throne, her mighty wings folded, her face a mask of sorrowful resolve, her eyes radiating a deep crimson sorrow. He stood beside her, transformed. No longer purely human, not yet fully vampire, but a seamless new being. The bond was irreversible. Her vital essence coursed through him, and his new presence provided an anchor against the turmoil in her mind. For the first time in millennia she was not alone. Why do you continue to fight for me? She asked quietly. Ryan's gaze was steady. Because you were never the true monster, he stated. Outside, the Empire's High Commander issued one final threat. You have 60 seconds to relinquish the Queen, or we will erase the station. Her and everything within it. Ryan looked to Zara. We cannot flee. No, she agreed. But we can ensure they bleed for it. They rushed through the outpost corridors together. Ancient defense mechanisms roared to life as Zara touched the stone walls, the forgotten technology responding only to the royal bloodline. Plasma turrets rose from the floor plating. Energy shields activated. Ryan uploaded the threat data regarding Earth into the station's mainframe. The weapon is en route to Earth. That ship must be neutralized. The Queen nodded. I will go. No, Ryan countered, stepping in front of her. You are not dying for their cause this time. We rewrite the narrative. They descended into a hidden, long-forgotten dock at the station's core. Within it rested a colossal warship from the First Age, its hull armored with bone-like plating, its wings composed of red glass. It was a sentient, ancient, and profoundly dangerous vessel, the blood-borne cruiser. It only accepts true royalty, she warned. I am connected to you now, he replied. Let us see if it accepts your choice. They stepped onto the deck simultaneously, and the ship thrummed to life. Control panels glowed red. The AI spoke in a voice older than language itself. Queen and chosen. Ready for conflict. They surged into space, their shields deflecting enemy volleys as they ascended into the orbiting fleet. The Empire was caught completely off guard by the resurrection of a relic warship, let alone its ferocity. Ryan piloted with a primal instinct as if born to the fire of combat. Zara directed the weaponry with a vampire queen's innate precision. They moved and thought as a singular entity, obliterating one warship after another. With each strike, the enemy screamed in a blend of shock and fury. However, the immense doomsday carrier, the flagship that concealed the blood weapon in its core, remained ahead. Zara looked at Ryan. If we dismantle that vessel, they will unleash every resource against us. Ryan nodded fiercely. Good, he said. Let them come and find us. They executed a violent turn and dive, breaching the enemy's main shield and plunging straight toward the heart of the behemoth. Inside the dreadnought, the core chamber blazed with a fierce red light, energized by stolen vampire DNA. The devastating machine was moments from reaching its operational capacity, minutes away from firing on Earth. Ryan managed a desperate landing of the Bloodborne inside the carrier's internal hangar. He disembarked, his breathing ragged, the atmosphere thick with the oppressive scent of impending doom. Zara followed, quiet but poised. They fought through the ship's passageways. Vampire soldiers assaulted them in frenzied waves, but they met the attack with coordinated rage. She flowed like wind and death. He fought with fire and thunder. One human, one queen, an unstoppable pair. They finally reached the weapon's core. It pulsed like a heart fashioned from metal and blood. You can override the sequence, Ryan said. Zara looked at the console. Yes, but it requires my physical presence to access the failsafe. I will have to remain here. Ryan stepped closer. No, he commanded. You are not dying for their sins this time. We are rewriting this story. He placed his hand beside hers on the console. His blood, now mingled with hers, was sufficient. The machine recognized their unified essence, and the weapon began to disintegrate from within. But as the device failed, a final wave of guards flooded the chamber, too numerous, too fast. Ryan was hit, hurled across the floor, bleeding profusely. Zara's cry of pain transformed into a storm of uncontrolled fury, energy tearing from her form. She decimated the remaining guards, her eyes shining like twin suns. She rushed to Ryan, cradling him, their hands slick with his blood. He looked up, frail but smiling. I told you, he whispered. We fight together. You cannot abandon me now, she pleaded. I am not abandoning you, he managed. I am simply becoming something else. His eyes closed. For a moment, only silence remained, the kind of stillness that causes the universe to hold its breath. Queen Zara knelt on the metallic deck, her arms wrapped around Ryan Cole's still form. He had stopped breathing. His blood, their shared blood, pulsed faintly beneath his skin, glowing like a contained star. Zara's grief was overshadowed by a tidal wave of fury. She stood, her face set in shadow, her mighty wings unfurling like a sudden cosmic storm. I will not yield you, she whispered. Not like this. She bent down, brushing the hair from his forehead, and leaned in. This bond is more than an exchange of plasma, she vowed. It is a choice, and I choose you. With a sharp claw, she sliced her own palm and placed it over his heart. This was not a feeding ritual, but an awakening. Ancient words, older than the vampire empire and older than light, left her lips. Blood surged into him again, this time for rebirth. A pulse ran through the chamber. Then another. Ryan's fingers twitched. His eyes opened. They were no longer simply human or crimson, but a blend, life and shadow. He gasped, then slowly rose. Zara took a step back, her expression one of utter, ancient hope. You restored me, he murmured. No, she replied. We returned. Outside, the remaining vampire armada circled without restraint. Ryan stood beside her, no longer a mere man, no longer a monster, but the new, bonded entity. I can sense them, he said. All of them. And they are afraid. Zara touched his shoulder. Then let us give them a proper reason for their fear. They rushed back to the Bloodborne cruiser, the ship that now recognized two equal sovereigns. Its engines roared, launching it from the burning dreadnought. The enemy fleet surrounded them. Ryan took the helm, Zara took the weapons. They were a singular, devastating storm. We require a final strike, Ryan asserted. Zara nodded. There is one last option. She entered the Bloodborne's core chamber, where a living heart once provided its power. She placed both their hands on the core and issued the final command. Consume the blood. Preserve the stars. The ship transformed. Its hull became incandescent red, its wings stretched out like blazing fire. It became a comet of pure, focused rage, aimed directly at the Empire's capital ship, the brain of the entire fleet. One successful impact would conclude the war. One successful impact would also conclude them. Ryan looked at her one last time. Do you regret saving me? She smiled, fierce yet tender. Not for a single instant. The The Bloodborne tore through the shields and screams, blazing straight into the Empire's heart. Then came the light, neither red nor white but something entirely new. Silence settled across the galaxy, heavy and enduring. In the following years, legends were whispered. Stories told of how the queen who was meant for destruction found the one who would ultimately redefine her destiny. How a human became more than a myth, he became her equal. And how together, they became a warning to any power that believed Earth would surrender quietly, to any who believed unity was weakness and blood was merely a tool for war. Some insist they perished that day in the blinding nova. Others claim they transcended, becoming something that slipped through the veil of known space. No one knew the definitive truth. But in the forgotten sectors of the cosmos, a new symbol began to appear, carved into ancient stone walls. A crown, a fong, and a flame. The mark of the queen and the human who chose to ignite the old world and construct a new, better one from its ashes.